Welcome everybody to It Tastes Different Game Reviews. What we're reviewing today? Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. All right, before we jump into this, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit those notifications, all the good stuff that go along with it. And let's get this turd rolling. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon is a mech-based vehicular combat game. Pretty sure the name kind of gives it away. It was released on August 25th for the PlayStation 5 and 4, Xbox One, X, S, Windows, everything but the Switch, because the Switch can't handle it. And developed by From Software, which everybody knows. They make them good stuff. So let's find out if this good stuff is just as good as the last good stuff. This game does have multiplayer. I did not play any of it. I just want to point that out there because I don't want to die. So let's get this thing rolling. Mech-based combat game. I'm pretty sure Nick has more time with that than anybody when it comes to mech games. I'm not a big mech guy, but I'll tell you what I think about this. But let's let go first. Nick, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Did it put a fire in your pants?
It put a fire in my Rubicon. Yes.
See the doctor.
Yeah, this is it's Armored Core. If you've ever played Armored Core before, this is pretty much, it's been a long time since we've had Armored Core, since looks like the last one came out in 2012. So it's been a while. It's been a few since From Software decided to put another Armored Core back, and I'm happy it's back. It's pretty much, I didn't play all the Armored Cores, but I've played a few of them back in the day and really enjoyed them. And this is pretty much kind of what I remember Armored Core being, which is good. There's, this game has a lot of, when you think of Armored Core and you think of, it's almost kind of like an RPG in the sense, because you do have a spec sheet for your robot. And when you trade parts out and for your robot head and shoulder, or not shoulders, but head and chest and legs and arms and guns and things like that, there's different stats for them. There's a lot of different stats. Luckily, there is a help menu that will explain what each stat is. So then you can go, oh, okay, that's what that's for, and that's what this is for, and all that good stuff. This game, though, when you first start out, if you've never played an Armored Core game, or if you're playing this one, most people would probably go into it and they would build their mech how they want it to look, with the weapons they want. And then they would be like, in most RPG-ish type games, right? We don't level up in this, but we have stats and we have different weapons and things that we can trade out. Most people would probably pick the weapons they like and the look they like for their mech and be like, all right, from the start to the end, this is what my mech is going to be. And I feel like this game is not that way. You need to trade out parts on your mech constantly. So go to the parts store, because there's a parts store where you can buy parts from guns to the armor pieces and stuff, and buy things in there that you might think you might need and that you want to be able to trade in and out. Because when you do the different missions, luckily this game has a nice checkpoint system where it'll checkpoint at certain points, and also right before boss fights at checkpoints. But if you die, you can reassemble your mech. So you might find that the weapon layout that you have isn't really working for this boss. And if you've bought, the only option you don't get at that menu is the parts store. So make sure you buy things before you go in. But at that point, you can reassemble your mech and be like, okay, I'm going to go in with some bazookas now instead of the machine gun that I had, right? Or something like that. And then you can go in and you'll find that the fights might be a little bit easier, or you have an advantage now that you've done that. So don't just pick a robot setup and say, okay, I'm just going to coast with this, because you'll find, and I found myself, that there is no coasting with that. I'm constantly swapping weapons out, even for myself, swapping out parts, arms, legs, and stuff like that, depending on what I want to do. because you can make a heavy mech that's going to give you lots of armor, lots of health, or you can make a light mech that is going to have low health, but is going to be zipping all over the place, right? You can go everywhere and boost all over the place and go all over the place. Whereas your heavy mechs, they can boost and stuff, but you're going to run out of boost really quickly with those heavy mechs. So, but the nice thing about the heavy mechs is you get to strap a couple of bazookas on your back and and heavy machine guns in your hand. So it's pretty cool. But I enjoy this game a lot. I think one of the things I enjoy about this game is story wise, I don't really know what the hell's going on story wise. I'm trying to follow it, but I mean, it's some things are kind of starting to come together. But again, this game is like, I feel like it's all about gameplay. I think the gameplay in this game is solid. I think going in with the mech and, strapping the weapons on there and use the controls to get around and shoot things and destroy stuff. It's just fun, just pure fun. I don't care what I'm going into mission for. I just want to go in there and blow stuff up. And I find that they did a really good job of making that a fun aspect of the game. It's just to go in there and blow crap up and do it in a cool kind of way. Cause sometimes you get some really cool shots off with your mech, or you do some, you don't mean to, but you do some boosting up thrust in the air kind of maneuver thing where you do something from an anime or something like that, or you just shoot yourself across the screen and then you end up blowing something up and you're like, that was cool. I'll never do that again. But there's those cool moments, so yeah, this game I find it a lot of fun. I'm enjoying it a lot. I think Armored Core, I'm happy that From Software decided to bring Armored Core back, and I think they've done a really good job with it. I think Elden Ring, with that game, that kind of brought From Software into the kind of the more mainstream, I feel. And I think with that's going to help Armored Core too, because people played Elden Ring. So now I think a lot more people are going to check out Armored Core and more games that come out from Software. So that just helped. And Armored Core is a great game. It's not Elden Ring, right? It's a completely different game. So don't go in expecting like Dark Souls or Elden Ring. It is a difficult game, but I don't think it's as difficult as Dark Souls and stuff like that, right? It has difficulty spikes with bosses and stuff, but most of the levels and even some of the boss encounters aren't that difficult. So you could go in there and do it. And sometimes the difficulty just comes to, again, like I'm saying, changing out parts, right? Maybe you need to change that machine gun out for something a little bit bigger or something better, or maybe just the melee weapons and stuff. Maybe you need the sword or the plasma sword or the pile driver or something else to really take down this boss or these enemies or something like that. Or maybe a better missile launcher, maybe that shoots more than 6 missiles, right? Because they have those. You can get the 10 missile launcher that shoots 10 missiles if you want. So, maybe you just need to change things up, and that will give you the advantage in the level and stuff. So, ultimately this game's a lot of fun. Just don't expect it to be Dark Souls or Elden Ring or something like that. It is a mech game. It is in its own category of games From Software, right? It's not like their other ones. Because we're all used to Dark Souls or used to Elden Ring and things like that. This is completely different from that, but it's still fun, and I enjoy it. Pat, what did you think of Armored Core?
Yeah, I would agree with you. The game is nowhere near as difficult as like Elden Ring or Dark Souls or any of that stuff. And I agree with you. It's all about loadout, right? Like you can't make a mech and think you're going to go through the game from start to finish with the mech, because that's how I approached this when I first played it too. And I don't have experience with Armored Core games. This is my first one. So I'm just thinking I want to build this thing how I want to play for my play style, and that's going to be the end of it. And the very first boss told me, no, you're not, So, and when you play through, you unlock arena events where you fight other types of mechs that are ranked, from F all the way to probably S rank, I would imagine. I've not gotten any S ranks or A ranks or anything like that, but I'm assuming that it goes all the way to S. But one of the things is that, you have to swap out. You may fight a mech that's like super quick. And, like my typical loadout is ultra heavy. Like I've got rocket packs on my back. I'm shooting a bazooka and I'm running a heavy hitting melee weapon. Well, you can't hit something that you can't see very well. So that little thing zipping around quicker than you can target it, especially with like a slower melee. And I'm always heavy, so I run a heavy mech. I ran heavy in Elden Ring and everything like that with fat rolling on that. But this one here just slows you down a little bit. So your attacks aren't quite as quick. You know, like my swing and my melee weapon isn't quite as quick, and I can't catch up to the mech with my boosts and stuff. So, you know, I had to swap out I either need to make myself quicker or I need to attach more quicker weapons. And so that's what I end up doing. I end up attaching quicker weapons for that fight. And then I go back to my loadout, you know, that I like to play with. And then once I get to a boss, I try him a couple times and I learn, okay, I can't really attack him like this because it's not doing anything. Or it's taking me too long to stagger him because it is what they call AT or attitude. What do they call that? Like attitude, upward attitude or something like that. I always forget the attitude stability. That's what it is. That's your determination of how much damage you can take before you get staggered. And the enemy has the same concept. And so, I fought with that. My first real challenge with that was probably the end of chapter 1 boss, where I was like, I mashed my face into him and over and over and over. And I'm like, I just kept using the same weapons and I got him down pretty far, but I could never kill him. And then chatted with Nick and he's like, well, you need to try this. It eats shields and this does that. And I'm like, I just want to run the build I want to run, but that's not how this game is. You cannot run the build you want to run all the way from start to finish. But the only thing that I really don't change out is I don't change out my chassis at all. I don't change out my arms. I don't change out my legs. I don't change out my chest or head. I find a set of those that really works for me, and I like the loadout. Gives me enough attitude stability, load limit, AP, and then EN, max amount of EN and recharge and all that stuff. And I like that. And so the only thing I do is I swap out weapons because you have 4 different weapons. You have a right shoulder, left hand weapon. And I'm like, okay, is this boss super quick or is he ultimately shielded out like there's nobody's business? Is he just built like a tank? He's built like a tank. He's slow enough that I can hit him with the heaviest crap I can equip. And my mech is heavy. I mean, basically I have everything on to max my EN output and almost max my loadout. I don't run the tank leggings. I don't run the tank that's a leggings. I run the actual heaviest set of leggings I can get. But it allows me to pretty much equip anything I want. Now, I can't equip all 4 of the heaviest, but I can get pretty close. So, and that's what I found that I run most of the mission with. And then when I get to the boss, I have to adapt my loadout to the boss. And that's really how you have to play this. You can't think of it like Elden Ring. You can't think of it like Dark Souls, where I'm just going to make my build and I'm going to suffer through it and I'm going to out-level everything, because you can't out-level the enemies in this game. There's no levels. So you're stuck with whatever parts you can buy. My biggest hint to you is do not sell your weapons. Just keep them, because there may be a battle or a fight where you want to use those weapons later on, because maybe they attack quicker, maybe they hit harder. So that's the biggest tip I can give you, is don't sell your weapons. I was selling everything else. And it's not really damaged me too much. Because like I said, I'm not swapping out any of the chassis parts. I'm mostly swapping out just weapon sets. But other than that, it's a great game. I like it. I'm enjoying it. It is difficult. But I don't think it's nowhere near as difficult as their other games. Like, I don't think it's nowhere near Elden Ring or Dark Souls level difficulty or any of those other games in that genre. This is not that difficult, in my opinion. It's just learning to adapt yourself to the game and not trying to adapt the game to yourself, because that's what Elden Ring and Dark Souls is, right? I'm making my build and this is what I'm sticking with. And I'm going to either dominate this or I need to come back a level up and then come back and attack this stuff. And this one is just like, you get what you got, you move forward. It's very linear. Like I said, there's arena battles that you can do. There's some log hunts you can do to help you get more money. By the time I reach the end of chapter 2, I was pretty much had enough money to afford all the weapons I wanted. And I think I have a couple of each weapon in my inventory from running all the arenas and all that stuff. Because arenas unlock weapons that you can't buy in the store until you unlock them in the arena, and then you can. So, but overall, I enjoyed this game. It's a really good game, and to me, it was worth it. Like I said, not knowing anything about the Armored Core series and just knowing that it's from Software, I thought it was going to be a lot more punishing than it is. The first boss, the end boss of chapter 1, I think was the hardest for me, but the first boss almost made me quit. And I think that's because I think there's a bug in the first boss fight, because the first boss can go out of bounds. And technically, the end of chapter 1 boss went out of bounds on me a couple times, but nowhere near as much as the very first like test boss, I guess we'll call him. The very first boss that you run into, that guy stays out of bounds like half the dang fight. And I'm like, can't hit him, can't do any damage. So, but enjoyable once you get past that. I think it's a bug. But Shane, what do you think about this game, man? Do you enjoy piloting your mech and getting your shit pushed in?
Maybe not so much the last part, but I mean, there's really not a lot for me to add because you guys pretty much hit everything on the nose. Just like I think most From Software games, the very beginning is your trial of am I going to like this? Some From Software games, Bloodborne, I never got through the first boss. Never could do it. I had so many choice words for that game. So this game is not near as difficult as that, but it definitely has the From Software, feel to it. But yeah, Pat's right. The very beginning, pre-boss, whatever you want to call it, little mini boss, whatever the hell, on your way to him, they're kind of telling you, all right, you do this for this, you do that for that, so you're learning, you're doing your things, and you're just bowling through these other mechs and like, man, I got this. And then you hit this dude who will not stay in bounds, like Pat said, and you cannot shoot him when he's out of bounds. So he was a cheese ass. So that almost ruined the game for me. So whether or not it's a glitch, I don't know, but I know it pissed me off pretty good. But once you get through it, the missions, I don't know what the hell the story is. So I can't tell you what the missions are about. I just know they're cool. I've enjoyed every mission. So, and I don't want to give none away, but some of them are, really cool set pieces. Some of them are kind of generic, but, overall game is really tight. I can't remember the last Armored Core I played. I can't remember if I played the ones before that because they're like, so spread out. It's really hard for me to remember. But this one I definitely remember. It's a fantastic game, and they're right. You cannot set your loadout to ooh, I look cool. You go with that mindset. Try to set your mech up like Evangelion, and then you get, as Pat poetically says, get your shit pushed in. You decide you have to make some changes, and then you go in looking like a GoBot. But you're doing much better that way. So you can't base your loadouts for what looks cool. I've had so many changes to my mech that it's just unreal. You can set up one thing I don't believe you guys brought up was you can set up various mechs. You can have, I can't remember how many you can set, but you could have a beef mech, you can have a quick mech, you can have your GoBot, whatever. So that may be something to look for. I just I don't sell anything, just like Pat, and I just keep swapping things in and out because I'll get my ass handed to me, but I learn from it, and that's what most of From Software games are. They're just learn from it, ass whooping. So, but I love this game. We've all been waiting for it for quite a while. This game, I believe personally, is the start of a long, expensive next 4 months, because this is like one of the first games I've been dying for, and now there's so many more coming out right in a row. So this game's got me on a hype. So I'm ready to play. But
you mean the next 2 months have like umpteen games that we want to play?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how the hell I'm going to fit in time. So, but I'm going to get it done somehow. But,
yeah.
But overall, if you're a mech fan, this game's got you covered. If you're a story fan, good luck. But this game is fun. It just truly is fun. Now, the multiplayer, you have to get through the end of chapter 2 to be able to play multiplayer, just as a heads up. So don't go, I'm going to take on my boys And no, you're going to take your boys on once you get some experience under your belt. So just to me, that is a load of crap. That's my biggest complaint about the game is you have to wait till after chapter 2, but it is what it is. So, but yeah, I enjoy this game. I think this game is worth the money. I would love to have seen co-op in it because the maps and everything are huge. And there's so many cool areas that I think would have been great for like a cooperative experience. So, but From Software is not big on that.
Yeah. And I've never played Armored Core game, but I think they could have done so much more with like combat, with like mech based combat. Like you should be able to like target, components. Like I should be able to target an arm on another mech and blow off its arm. So it can no longer use its right arm weapon. It doesn't have any like procedural damage in it. Even on your bot, like you can't have like your arm disabled or your right shoulder disabled or your head disabled, lowering like your AP or your attitude, stability and stuff like that. That to me, which other mech games do have, but not this one. And I don't know if they've ever had it, but when I was playing it, I was going, this would be really cool if that one boss is giving me trouble. If I could just prevent him from flying away by damaging his boosters or something, or shortening the amount of time that he could fly by doing something like that. I also thought this would be a great co-op game because there are a few missions where you run with allies. And I'm like, this to me just says co-op all over it. But I will say the ally missions, they go by pretty quick because it's almost like cheesing it sometimes. As I was playing it, I'm like, this is fun running with two other mech pilots. And then you run into a mini boss and I'm like, okay, cool. And we just raped him. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's why there's no co-op in here. They don't know how to up his ability to not get his crap pushed in. It was like, wow, we just decimated that guy. Because really, and there's a couple of fights like that. When you have more than one mech, somebody is just basically kiting the boss while the other people are just beating on his backside. So, they have to make more difficult bosses, but I think this game would be great if they could somehow make co-op into it. But I want everything to have co-op. I would love for Elden Ring to have like persistent co-op and not to drop in to help you with a boss. Yeah. Because Nick and I kind of cheese it a little bit. Like I would pull him in the middle of the map and he could stay in with me until we kill the boss and then booted his ass right out. But we would run the whole map and stuff and do things. But they need to be able to stay persistent co-op. But, I guess they offered some ability to get help in that game. Armored Core, you're on your own. There is no, hey, can you help me kill this boss?
Yep.
So.
Yep, your GoBots don't have no buddies.
Yeah, but you also don't get a lot of the messages like you do in Elden Ring. Put finger in hole and butthole or whatever. You don't get any of those Elden Ring messages. So
yeah, they learned.
If you're expecting Elden Ring with mechs, then you're in the wrong genre. It's not that type of game.
Yeah, Armored Core is like an arcade-ish version of a mech game, right? Where like Mech Assault is more of your simulate, or Mech Warrior is like your simulated mech game, right? Where you can knock off pieces and armor and stuff, and your mechs go slow, and there's a lot more stats when it comes to it, even like core temperature and like all sorts of crap. Where this game is all about like it does have stats and stuff, but it's all like arcadey ish, right? Where you're going through and just blowing stuff up. One of the cool things though too is you can paint your mechs, which is always fun. You can paint all the pieces of your mech. You can also put decals on there, and you can create your own decals, which is pretty cool. And so
lots of customization, and somehow we all ended up with close to the same color scheme.
Yeah, I colored, which I didn't realize this until after the fact when we were showing each other like our mechs. I colored my mech the same exact colors I chose for my Xbox Elite Series controller, which I didn't realize until after I looked at the mech and I looked down my controller. I was like, I picked the same colors.
Yeah. So you can customize your mech, which is kind of cool. I spent a little bit of time doing the same thing, picking the color scheme, the patterns that you want, and then setting that. So whenever you get a new leg or arm or chest or head, it puts it in with that paint scheme that you put together. The only thing I don't like is like I put decals on my shoulders, and when I change out my arms, the decals are gone. So, but that makes sense because they're not all shaped the same. Like some of the thinner arms are much smaller. And then as you get to the heavier, more armor plated ones that have higher AP, they're like more flattened and broadened and just bulky looking, right? So it makes sense, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't mess with it enough. I got to the point where I did it early on, and then I changed out my armor, and I'm like, it keeps the paint scheme. I'll mess with the stickers later when I get to a point where I'm not changing out my arms or legs enough.
Yep. There's just so much love about this game. So much, customization. So, but this, this is a surprise for me because I was kind of worried since it took so long since the last one, but I was also looking forward to it, and I'm not disappointed. So good day. Good day. All right. You guys got anything else? All right.
Nope.
Well,
Recommend it.
this mech is out of batteries, so we're going to recharge. Everybody, thanks for listening all the way to the end there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit those notifications, all the good things that, give us reasons to do what we do. Let us know what you think about this game and pretty much any other mech game that you've played. What is it you like about them? Do you like GoBots? Because I do. GoBots were out before Transformers, just so everybody knows. But thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time. See ya.